Alrighty now, back from break. Let's take a look at reparenting the inner child. Okay, this is kind of, this is a throwback to the 90s, right? We're all carrying around our teddy bears. It's our inner child. It's a real thing, though. And you know that if you've done as you've been looking at Erickson and you're looking at these developmental things, we do have a internal vulnerability, okay, that does carry some scar tissue from our own life experience. There's that part of us that's tender, it's little, that feels the impact of the world around us. In reparenting, we need to develop self-empathy, the ability to be compassionate and empathetic with ourselves. And that means, and I talk about this a lot with clients, learning to be empathetic for ourselves, learning to be compassionate for ourselves. Some of us have such a critical parent in our head. The way we talk to each other is, not each other, ourselves, is harsh, right? Call ourselves names. You're such an idiot. You should have known that. What a dumbass. What a loser. The way we talk to ourselves is terrible. We would not talk to other people like that. Okay? So part of it is shifting that internal critical parent nastiness into more compassionate, healthy parenting. Things like, it's going to be okay, honey. You got this. It'll be all right. Okay, not so good. We'll do it better next time. Okay, who can we call? Learning to talk to ourselves like we genuinely care about us. All right, being our own friend, like being on our own team, right? Instead of talking to us like we're a failure, we're a problem. So we need to transfer this. Pia Melody defines reparenting as learning to be there for the self and do for the self what needs to be done, right? I need to take care of business. My business. I need to make sure I have enough toilet paper. I'm just saying, okay? I need to make sure that I get myself to the doctor, that I get my new glasses, new prescription, that I have clean underwear. I gotta take care of me. And I deserve it. I deserve to be taken care of, just like you do. Because I'm a person, okay? And there's certain basic personhood things that help us function and help us move through life easily, like remembering to put gas in my car so I don't have to call AAA or call a friend, that kind of thing, making sure I tend to my business. She states there's two realities we need to learn to face in order to do this. One is the reality of who we are. Okay, I have to take a look at, who am I really? What's going on with me? I need to tell the truth about me. We do this nice fourth step, right? Where I really take a look at my, assets and liabilities. What are my strengths and weaknesses? Okay, my defects and assets. I need to be able to see myself clearly without having shame attacks, which allows then people to give me feedback without me having a shame attack or getting all, enraged because they pointed something out. Remember that if I have been developing my critical thinking, people can give me feedback and I can think to myself, is it true? Is it not true? Is it partially true? Take a look. Right? Instead of my first thought is, you're wrong. You don't know. Right. Second one is the reality of who other people are. That's the other thing, is taking a really good look at people in my world and being honest with myself. And that's different than judgmental. Judgmental assigns it a value. I can look at somebody in my life who's still drinking and who I love and be honest with myself. He's unreliable. And the fact is, he hasn't called in 4 weeks and I don't know where he is. Now, I don't have to judge him as being a bad human. I don't have to judge him as being a thoughtless piece of shit, okay? But I can say to myself, realistically, as an active alcoholic, he is not reliable. He's not able to be my friend right now. He can't do it. That allows me to keep my expectations of him reasonable, right? So I don't get all up resentful, or I start name calling, or I start blaming myself, right? Oh, if I was just thinner, taller, I was a better friend. No. alcoholic, active alcoholic, unreliable. That's who he is. It's hard to do. It's hard to see people as they are and not judge them. Okay? I'm not saying, this is why, I'll be going to meetings till I die. All right? It's just hard to do. So she says we need to face both realities without overreacting. Again, not having a shame attack, not going hypercritical, not beating somebody up, but just saying, okay, this is who they are. Just who they are, right? It's like my favorite Buddhist story, right? The monk comes to the river. Oh, I'm sorry. The monk comes to the river, and there's a scorpion there. And the scorpion, who can't swim, says, hey, I need to get to the other side. Will you give me a ride, right? And the monk says, I'm not going to take you across the river. You'll sting me and I'll die. And the scorpion says, well, I wouldn't do that, because if I sting you, we'll both die. We'll both drown. That made sense. The monk says, okay. So halfway across the river, what happens? The scorpion stings him. And as they're drowning, the monk says, you weren't going to sting me. And the scorpion says, I am what I am. I am what I am. I'm a scorpion. I sting people. Okay? So whenever we think we're going to be the exception, that my alcoholic friend cuts off and hides from everybody in the world but me, no. No. Okay? So being real about this stuff. Pia says there's two major pieces of work here in our codependency symptoms in our recovery, which is to acknowledge and address the 5 core symptoms we've taken a look at, difficulty with boundaries and difficulty being moderate, right? Difficulty with our self-esteem, taking a look at those. And then detoxing. She goes, once you've learned how you've been abused, you need to learn to think like an adult about the abuse in your childhood. Meaning I need to learn to tell the truth about me and what's happened to me in my life. And not be in denial and not play let's pretend and not be, over dramatic and, I had the worst childhood on the planet. Chances are you didn't. You had the same, similar kind of shitty childhood a lot of people had, maybe. But no, wasn't the worst, not the best. And taking a look at it honestly. So she says we need to take a look at, okay, if I've been abused, how did I have she calls it less than nurturing parenting. I love that. Okay? How did I receive less than nurturing parenting? And how did I feel about that? How did I feel about that then? How do I feel about it now? And then I need to address any of the feelings I'm carrying that don't belong to me because I kind of absorb them from my caregiver, right? Because some of these feelings of shame or of disappointment or anger or betrayal, they're not my life experience. They're not mine. I need to release them back. I need to recognize that, hey, you know what? This really isn't mine. This is my mother's feeling about men. This is my mother's grief at the loss of her brother, right? This is my father's rage that his father abandoned him. And learn to be able to say, hey, wait a second. I need to own what's mine and not own what's not mine. And I need to give it back. I need to give it back. I don't want to carry that anymore. Not mine. So how does reparenting fit into detoxing? Well, when you notice something's triggering an old issue, stay in your adult state. So the part of this is, you get triggered and all of a sudden you feel like you're 5, right? And you have like a 5-year-old or a 12-year-old. We've talked about this. And so the goal is to stay in your adult head and say, and to get triggered and then say, okay, honey, let's talk, and talk yourself off the cliff. You can do this. Okay, let's breathe. It's going to be okay. Kind of walk yourself through it. So the adult part of you is able to reassure that frightened little kid part of you that just got triggered. Hey, I got this. We got this. All right? We're not trapped. I got a driver's license. Got an ATM card. We're good. It's all good. It's going to be all right. Be where your feet are. That's another thing we say. Or I got everything I need right now. Right now, it's all good. Because, we could spin off. We go off into the future. And, what if I never get toilet paper? Oh, my God. Okay. Then I'll use Kleenex. All right? We don't get toilet paper. Okay. Actually, you know what one of my clients did? He said he bought a bidet. You know what that is? You know how in Europe you have like little water faucets that splash water up in your butt? That's how they get clean. Okay? Instead of toilet paper, they wash their little butt. Well, and that's how they do it actually in a lot of the world. They actually splash their butts to get clean. They don't use toilet paper, okay? So because he knows how to do stuff, he went out and bought a bidet. He said, worst case scenario, I'll just install this in my house and then we'll use the bidet. That's what a lot of the world does, right? When my sister was living in Indonesia, and I would visit her, right? We would just get a scoop of water, right? And we'd stand there and splash ourselves. That's what we do. Okay, so toilet paper, I need to talk myself down off the cliff. Because I've been to other countries, I know how to get clean if I need to. I prefer to have toilet paper, but I don't have to have toilet paper. I'm just saying. Now, then again, I know in other countries when you do that, that's why you don't shake hands with that hand, right? Because that's your toilet paper hand, you know, you're splashing water up in there. Then, you know, put your hand out. That's gross. All right. All right. Pia Melody visualizes our inner child as representing for her, it's an internal wound that's connected to feeling like not mattering, I don't matter, or having really strong, flooded, intense emotions, or inability to think clearly, right? It's like our thinking gets hijacked. So she says, you know that you're sort of maybe having an inner child experience when your thinking is chaotic and hijacked, when you're having really strong emotions, or when you're convinced you don't matter. Those could be all signs that you've been triggered into your little kid. In reparenting, she says, we develop skills to be functional adults. So, you know, unfortunately, every time before when we were triggered, we would parent ourselves the same way we got parented. So, if we had a strong feeling or disordered thinking, or felt like we didn't matter, one, we might have attacked ourselves and said, oh, just shut up. Don't be such a baby. Well, maybe that's how we were parented when we had feelings. People talk to us like that. Or maybe our response is abandonment. So I start to feel strong feelings. Nobody was there to comfort me. Nobody was there to soothe me. I just checked out. I abandoned. I got abandoned by them. So now when I feel these things, or now when I feel like I don't matter, I just numb out. I check out. Right? I go get a bottle of vodka. I binge watch 16 episodes of something. You know, I just check out. Stop functioning. I don't matter. Basically what I do is treat myself like I don't matter. And then the third way we might address our disordered thinking or our strong emotions is to get really indulgent, like, uh-oh, and then caretake, like, uh-oh, okay, well, you're feeling something, or you're not doing well, we better go get some weed, better go get some meth, better go get some more opiates, you know, we need to check out, let me grab some benzos, and you know, because I don't want to feel, not going to do it. I'm gonna eat a quart of ice cream. Okay, so sort of binging like that. The choices we make, she says, is often connected to the way we were parented. So therefore, reparenting is making different choices in the middle of our distress. So when I'm distressed, not doing what my parents did, okay, but making a decision to take care of me and treat me with respect. To treat me with respect when I'm upset. To treat me with respect when I'm sad. Treat me with respect when I'm confused and I don't know what to do. Instead of calling myself names, I need to breathe, count to 10, let my amygdala system calm down. Maybe I need to call a friend and ask for help. Okay, so instead of critical attacks, we can affirm ourselves and a move from abandonment to nurturing. So we can learn, you know, to care about us and love ourselves and set some boundaries and recognize our needs and wants are not the same thing. Those of us who grew up with indulgence, right? So every time, you know, we had a feeling somebody took us shopping and bought us $1,000 worth of clothes, we then associate having a feeling, meaning I need to go drop a bunch of cash, whether I have it or not. Okay, so recognizing that I might want something. In fact, that wanting something or craving something may be an indicator I'm having a feeling, actually. All right, now there's other people who have different perspectives on the inner child. I put it in here from Healing the Child Within. Charles Whitfield actually sees the inner child differently. He doesn't see it as the wounded part of us. He sees it as the real part of us. Okay, that part of us that was there originally. Okay, it's who we are when we feel the most authentic, genuine, and spirited. So he sees the inner child as the part of us that was there before people started tinkering with us. Carl Rogers has the same thing. So this is a humanist perspective. Okay, this idea that the core of us is the part of us is who we were meant to be. It's who we came in. It's our original equipment. Before we started getting layers and layers put on us of other people's expectations or attempts to change us or tell us we should be somebody other than who we are. So he says, our inner child are things like part of us that's spontaneous and loving and communicative and feels and expresses feelings and is creative and playful and open and self-indulgent, a part of us that's joyful, a part of us is playful, that doesn't have a problem believing in a higher power. In fact, can surrender pretty easily. If you notice, small children have no problem with that. Okay? Some have estimated that we actually show our inner child to those on average for only 15 minutes a day. And if you think about that, that's not a whole lot out of an entire 24 hours. And in fact, I would say some of us, the only time we really express it is with our animals. So we may not even do it with people. It's who you are with your dog when you're playing. It's who you are with your animals, or who you are with a toddler or with a baby. Basically, who you are when you can be playful and you're not doing that critical self-judgment and having that internal narrator that's commenting on you all the time, commenting on you, giving you feedback over and over and over again, okay? He says we don't have to actually do anything to be our true self. The idea is that it's already there. And honestly, what he's recommending is that we learn to get out of the way and let it come out. Okay, it's already there. We have to go get it. We don't have to build it or design it. Okay, we need to get out of the way and let it come out. So to rediscover it, he says we can do 4 different things. We can discover and practice actually utilizing that part of it. Being in that part of us. I mean, one of the reasons I had my Artist in Recovery event, we held it last week, is because, for many people, that is key to their recovery, is that they have an opportunity to let that creative part of them come out. It's part of who they really are. They need an opportunity to kind of let that be expressed. He says we can identify our ongoing physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual needs and have those met with safe and supportive people, right? So this idea that we can identify what we need, identify our tenderness, and then we can create in our lives people that are capable of responding to what we need, okay? He says we can re-identify, re-experience, grieve the unresolved or ungrieved losses in the presence of supportive people. So what he's saying is part of what helps us heal is the witnessing of what's happened for us. So it's not enough for us, in his mind, to just acknowledge it to ourselves. The fact that we can actually share our story, do a 5th step, he sees as very important, because we're able to then have another person honor our history with us, show us the compassion that maybe we've had a hard time expressing to ourselves, right? Who can sort of validate, yeah, that's real, that really happened to you. And then the last thing he recommends is to identify and work through our core issues. So this idea of working on issues kind of is going to be like peeling an onion, right? So that we're going to start working on our mom issues, and then suddenly this thing's going to come up about our weight, and then this thing's going to come up about, when we moved when we were at 9, and then whoop, it'll be back to mom, and then it'll be dad, and so it kind of circular. And if you notice with addiction, it's sort of the same thing, right? I get rid of my heroin, but then I'm smoking weed. I get rid of weed, now I'm eating like a rock star. I get rid of weed, but I'm still smoking cigarettes like a chimney. I mean, so it's like all these different layers that are keeping us from occupying our real, genuine self. Now, he does describe losses being a little more challenging for people in recovery, or losses that in general we sort of stuffed and repressed or suppressed. And it can be hard because some of these losses are so old or so long ago, we may not even recognize them as losses. So part of telling our story is sometimes people can hear the impact of of your life in a different way than you hear it, because you were there. You don't recognize how significant it might be. But another person might say, wait a second, you did that when you were 8? Or you had your uncle did what? Or what do you mean your grandmother died and no one ever mentioned it again? I mean, so somebody's able to sort of validate with you and for you that these areas in your life were actually significant. She also says that he says there's some examples for recovering people, like loss of our expectations, hopes, and beliefs. That we might have had when we were younger, they got hijacked and derailed because of our using. We've lost our self-esteem, maybe even parts of ourself in the process of our using. Our lifestyle, we may have maybe achieved some things at one point in our life, and then over time, even though we achieved it then, as our drinking and using continued, we had more loss and more impact and more loss and more impact. And so now we're living on the street. Okay? So, it could be that who we are now does not reflect who we've been. And that is a loss, and we have some ground we need to regain. Past unexperienced, that's an interesting one. Unexperienced relationships. These are the relationships that could have been or might have developed if I hadn't been a train wreck, if I hadn't been loaded, if I hadn't been a criminal, maybe if I hadn't been locked up, right? Maybe. The person I actually really loved, if I'd been able to be loving, but I couldn't do it at that time. I wasn't available at that time. And so that marriage ended, or that I never asked her to marry me, and I've always regretted that I didn't do that. Maybe there's past incompleted developmental stages. So you had other developmental areas that because you were using, or you were dealing with family trauma, or you were in survival, or your domestic violence situation, parts of you never really developed or grew, right? That maybe had started but got again sort of truncated or hijacked or dropped because you started college, but then you had to work because your dad died and your mom needed help. All kinds of things like that can start to come out. Ungrieved losses, changes in current relationship. One of the things we talk about, divorce in recovery, because sometimes marriages don't survive recovery. Because if you don't grow together, right? If you don't get on the same path, it's hard. The connective tissue begins to get thinner and thinner and thinner. He says, so to work through the pain of our grieving, he says we're going to need to feel and experience our feelings as they come up, and then recognize that I may be denying my feelings. I might be avoiding them. Things we do like to continue to deny it or intellectualize it and say, yeah, I know, but that's something everybody goes through, or I was just, that was then, this is now, that's the past. Yes, all of that's true, and you had feelings about it, and you have feelings now about it. And the idea is to integrate, and you, meaning who you are now, from the inside all the way through, you want to become a congruent, connected individual. Because when you're congruent and connected, you can then be present in relationships. I hope that makes sense. So he recognizes some experiential techniques we could use, things like risking and sharing, telling our own story, attending self-help, group therapy. So the idea is that key to this from Charles' perspective is that we're going to have to learn to play. And by play meaning stop the self-examination, stop taking ourselves so seriously, not seeing ourselves as, this martyred, hunkered down, everything in life is so freaking hard. Okay, that is a tough way to live in life. And so developing an ability to let some of that go. Stop taking yourself so seriously like you're the center of the planet. Okay? What a relief that is. All right, so we're going to close this section here. Hopefully you're going to go out and play. And before you do, you turn in your paper. Okay, I miss you. Okay, bye-bye.